All right, everyone, get ready, because today we're doing a deep dive into something super practical, something I think a lot of you will find really valuable. We're talking all things project management, specifically taking a look at this MECHESOL project management training module.
Definitely. This is a good one. It's not just some dry theoretical stuff. They really focus on giving you the tools and skills to actually use this stuff in the real world.
And that's what we like to hear. So where does this module kick off? What are some of the core concepts they cover right out of the gate?
While they start strong with the fundamentals, just like you'd want any good project to, they really emphasize this whole idea of aligning projects with your company's goals, because what's the point of putting in all that work if it's not actually moving the needle, right?
Absolutely, got to make sure everyone's rowing in the same direction from the start. But aligning goals is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. You also have to define the scope so everyone's crystal clear on what's included, what's not included. That can get messy later on if it's not nailed down early on. And then, of course, there's the always fun topic of resource management.
Yes, resource management, every project manager's favorite game of Tetris. Trying to make everything fit with the time, budget, and people you've got, not always easy.
It's a delicate dance, that's for sure. And speaking of dancing, this module doesn't just stop at the logistics. It delves into that crucial human element, too.
Okay, now we're talking. Tell me more about that.
Well, they dedicate a good chunk of the training to planning for project success, and that's where they really dig into things like scope management, time management.
Time management, because we've all been on those projects that seem to drag on forever.
Exactly. Time is money after all. And speaking of money, they definitely don't shy away from cost management either. Avoiding those dreaded cost overruns that make every project manager sweat.
Oh yeah, I've been there. Learned that lesson the hard way. So they cover the big three: scope, time, and cost. What other planning gems do they offer up?
Well, they're big on this idea of proactive risk management.
So not just dealing with problems as they pop up, but trying to anticipate them from the get-go.
You got it. They walk you through identifying potential risks, assessing their impact, and having a plan B in place, just in case. Because like you said, you've got to be ready for anything. And then, of course, there's stakeholder engagement, because keeping everyone informed and happy, that's huge in project management.
Absolutely. Happy stakeholders, happy life. Right.
Right. And last but certainly not least, they wrap up the planning phase with a solid emphasis on quality control. Because at the end of the day, you want to deliver a product that not only meets, but exceeds expectations.
So we've got our plan, everything's mapped out, but then comes the really fun part,
Yeah.
actually launching the project. It can feel like you're trying to herd cats sometimes.
You're telling me getting everyone moving in the same direction, making sure all those moving parts are working in sync, that's where that launching projects effectively section really comes in handy.
Give me the inside scoop. What are some of the key takeaways they emphasize for nailing that project launch?
Communication. I know, you're probably tired of hearing it, but it's true, especially when you're kicking things off. Everyone needs to be on the same page right from the start. The module actually goes into detail on how to create a communication plan.
So it's not just about communicating, it's about communicating effectively.
Mm.
Because there's a big difference between just sending out a bunch of emails and actually making sure everyone is getting the information they need when they need it.
100%. And speaking of things not always going according to plan, because let's face it, they rarely do, I was really impressed with how they tackled product execution and adaptability.
Yeah, because no matter how meticulously you plan, there are always going to be surprises, those unexpected roadblocks that pop up out of nowhere.
Exactly. And that's where being able to adapt and adjust on the fly becomes crucial. The module gives you a whole toolkit for handling those mid-project curveballs.
Okay, walk me through it. Let's say a major supplier suddenly backs out. What's your first move? How do you get things back on track?
Okay, so first things first, don't panic. Remember those risk management strategies we talked about? This is where they come in handy. Having a plan B or even a plan C is super important.
So you're not scrambling around when the pressure is on, you've got options. Love it.
Mm.
But adaptability isn't just about handling those major crises, right? It's also about being flexible and responsive on a day-to-day basis. Like when new information comes to light or you have to make those small but important course corrections along the way.
That's where agile methodologies come in. They're all about embracing change and incorporating it into your process instead of trying to fight it. In fact, they have a whole section on that called Mastering Agile and Adaptive Environment.
Agile, agile, agile. It's everywhere these days, but to be honest with you, I'm still not entirely sure I get it.
Think of Agile as a more flexible and collaborative way to manage projects. Instead of sticking to a rigid plan no matter what, You're constantly iterating and adjusting your course based on what's working, what's not working, and what the project actually needs.
So agile. It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket when it comes to project management.
It really is, especially in fields like engineering, right? Things are constantly changing, new tech, new demands. You need to be able to adapt quickly if you want to keep up.
Agile to stay agile makes sense to me. But even with the best tools and methods, at the end of the day, project management is about people, isn't it?
Totally agree. And you know what I really appreciate about this MECHESOL module? They seem to get that too, because they weave that human element throughout the entire training.
I noticed that. They even dedicated a whole section to it. What was it called again? Leadership and Ethical Project Management, something like that.
Leadership and ethical project management, yeah, that's the one. They really emphasize that it's not just about checking things off a list, it's about being a good leader, making responsible ethical decisions.
Which, let's be honest, isn't always easy,
Yeah.
right? There could be some tricky situations, conflicting priorities, stakeholders who don't always see eye to eye.
Absolutely. Those ethical dilemmas pop up more often than you might think. That's why I was impressed with how the module tackles that head on. They actually give you frameworks and real-world examples to help guide your decision-making in those tough spots.
Okay, so walk me through it. Say you're facing one of those classic project management dilemmas. Maybe it's a situation where you have to choose between meeting a deadline and potentially compromising on quality. How do you even begin to navigate that?
Well, the module emphasizes the importance of considering all the angles, right? It's not just about the bottom line, it's about the long-term impact of your choices, the people involved, the values at stake.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where you're delivering a successful project while also staying true to your ethical principles. Easier said than done sometimes, but I like where their heads are at.
Right. They're not just teaching you how to manage projects, they're teaching you how to lead with integrity, which is something you don't always see in these kinds of trainings.
It's refreshing for sure. So they cover the ethical side of things, but do they actually show you how all this stuff plays out in the real world?
They do, they really do. They have this great section on integration and case studies at the end, and it's all about connecting those dots, seeing how everything they've taught you actually works in practice.
It's like getting to peek behind the curtain, seeing how those PMBO principles actually translate into real-world projects. That's super valuable.
Absolutely. And it's not just one industry or project type either. They've got examples from all over the place, which makes it really relevant no matter what kind of projects you're working on.
Well, I've got to say, this MECHESOL project management training module sounds pretty comprehensive. Whether you're just starting out in project management or you're a seasoned pro looking to level up, it seems like they've got you covered.
I think so too. They really do a great job of breaking down those complex concepts, making it all seem less intimidating and more, well, manageable, which is exactly what you want in a project management training.
Well said. And on that note, a huge thank you to you, our expert, for joining us today and sharing your insights. I always learn so much from these conversations.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk shop.
And to all of you listening, if you're ready to up your project management game, be sure to check out the MECHESOL website and take a closer look at their training module. We'll drop a link in the show notes. Until next time, happy projecting, and we'll catch you on the flip side for another deep dive.